Hello, I'm Yehuda Goldman, and I'm a documentary filmmaker in the Washington, D.C. area. And I'm going to be joining Rick Silber and International Mountain Trekking on an amazing expedition on a fungi foray into the Khumbu region of the Himalaya this summer. And I'm going to be documenting it and making a documentary film along with Rick and his team of scientists and Sherpas. So, Rick, before we talk a little bit about that amazing trek that's coming up, let's hear a little bit about you.
Well, thanks, Yehuda. I've been climbing and backpacking my whole life. I've had the great pleasure of being able to climb in Alaska and North America, Africa, and Nepal. And I think being able to have created an organization that allows people to experience these great mountains in Nepal is a wonderful dream come true, and I'm thrilled to be able to do it.
Well, let's talk a little bit about expectations. If somebody wants to come on the trek, what do they have to do?
Look, the kind of person that's going to we want to come on this, and we hope will come on this, are people that have a sense of adventure, of exploration, of wanting to see something that may have never been identified before. I'm quite confident that that we will discover new mushrooms on this trek, first of all. I also will say this: trekking in Nepal is can be difficult, but it's completely up to everybody to become in good shape, to exercise before we go, and we have ways to help you do that. But it's totally manageable, and thousands of people trek in the Himalayas every year and do perfectly fine. So
There's not going to be ropes. We're not really climbing. It's more of an arduous type of trek. What
Sure.
about the altitude? Tell us how we're going to
Well, look,
adjust it to the altitude.
altitude is something that can be well managed with an appropriate itinerary, and we have that kind of itinerary. We have it through our experience. We will have appropriate rest days to allow you to acclimatize. During those rest days, you will be hiking, but you'll be returning back to where we're staying. So you'll hike high and sleep low, which is the perfect way for your body to get itself ready for taking on higher elevations. But again, we move up gradually. The itinerary of the trek is planned so that we're spending a little more time at lower elevations where there are mushrooms. And again, that'll give us more opportunity for acclimatization.
Let's talk a little bit about your Sherpa team on the ground.
The Sherpas we work with are all seasoned, licensed, high altitude guides who have guided climbers to the summits of the major mountains in Nepal. The most notable one, of course, would be Mount Everest. So we're going to be helped along. We're going to be guided by some of the world's, frankly, greatest high altitude guides.
I think that's important. Let's bring on Matthew. Let's bring Matthew on.
Terrific.
Let's talk to Matthew a little bit about what his PhD is in and his participation on this particular trek. Tell us a little bit without going too deep into the weeds, but what's your expectations? What's your goal? What are you trying to accomplish?
So my personal research is actually into the ecology of fungal psilocybin production. So for anybody who doesn't know, psilocybin is one of the main active molecules in psychedelic mushrooms that make them psychedelic, make them magic. But while there's a lot of really cool and interesting research going on about psychedelics today for the sake of mental health, PTSD or addiction, any number of things, there is almost no research going on into the actual ecology in their natural environments. What are psilocybin producing mushrooms producing it for? What benefit does it confer to them in their natural environment? And that's my research. I am looking into psilocybin producers and what organisms they interact with to see if psilocybin has some sort of benefit. Is it a defense mechanism? Does it recruit other organisms for mutualistic purposes to help spread their spores? That's what I'm trying to figure out. So I'll be there looking at psilocybin producers such as psilocybe species and documenting them and their ranges and such, because I don't think that that's very well documented. There's only been one paper looking at psilocybe species in the whole country of Nepal and none in the Khumbu region. So it'll be a really interesting time to look at those and then see also if I can document organisms that are working with them and take some soil samples to then see what microorganisms are living in their substrate with them, as well as taking samples of the mushrooms themselves to sequence their genetics and see if there are any other organisms living in and on the mushrooms themselves. So that's the basic idea. Is at this point, we're just trying to figure out who's there, who is interacting with these organisms. And then from there, we can start to try to figure out, okay, in what way does psilocybin mediate these interactions?
Fascinating. Yeah, I mean, for me, on any expedition like this, seeing something that I've never seen before, the potential for discovery is always there, and that was what makes these kinds of things very exciting. So, very cool. Matthew, thank you so much. Rick, before we talk to Dr. Devkota, let's talk about that 800-pound gorilla in the room, COVID-19. How are we going to deal with that? Folks are going to want to know about their deposits, about safety of travel. I know you're monitoring the situation. Let's ease that a little bit, then we'll get to Dr. Devkota. Yeah.
Look, COVID is obviously, hanging over everybody, and international travel is something that is still being worked out. I am anticipating that in order to go and safely travel to Nepal, everybody will need to be vaccinated. And I believe that there's will be given what our people in the travel industry are basically calling a medical passport to demonstrate that you've been vaccinated. I believe that probably the protocols, which are still changing in Nepal for entry, will require you to have a negative COVID test before you get on the airplane, and probably to repeat that once we get there. But I think that's the entry into Nepal during this time.
Okay, cool.
It's a great pleasure for me to introduce my friend and co-leader of our mushroom trek, Dr. Shiva Devkota. Shiva is one of Nepal's foremost mycologists, and we're just so thrilled to have him on this trek. Yehuda?
Excellent, thank you. Welcome all the way from Nepal, Dr. Devkota. How are you doing this morning?
Hi, Yehuda. So
Good. Or late there for you. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to share screen, and you got some wonderful images that you're going to take us through. That these folks might get to actually see some of these on their expedition. So here we go. So one of the things that we're going to see on this expedition is the connection with the indigenous population and integrating their local knowledge with science. You want to talk a little bit about that, Shiva?
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So here in these pictures, you can clearly see that I was just hiking on the way, and I have seen a lady preparing mushrooms, and this is very common. This is very common in a season. So you can see that in every steps, in every 200 meter and every 500 meter, local people, they used to gather mushrooms nearby the forest, and this is a kind of post-harvesting technology. They have their own technology. They got it, and then now they are trying to remove all the unwanted mushrooms, all the dots, and then they are preparing for post-monsoon season. And here we see these fabulous Corvinolus mushrooms, and of course Morcella morens, and this is one of the interesting mushrooms, Palus indiciatus. And these all are very beautiful and then also very interesting mushrooms, not only because of their color, not only because of their appearance, but because of their monetary value. And this Morcella species is really important for the mountain livelihood people, and I mean they got fungus money in a seasons, and it costs around $100 to up to $200 per kg for this species. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is also really important for their daily livelihoods. And this is interesting mushrooms. I mean, I got these mushrooms at around 4,000 meter altitudes, and I could not find its species, but I know that this is Rosula species, and this is edible one. And this is the different species what we got in a medials. I mean, it's up to 3,000 we call medials, and above 3,000 we call highlands. So it is even before even up to highlands. I mean, it got around. It was collected at around 4,000 meters. So this is very, very interesting mushrooms. Yeah.
Okay.
And this tiny mushrooms, it's like it's a size of island commune, and this is very interesting in terms of the spirituals, or I would say ritual values. And Tamang people, they are one of the very indigenous community, and also the mycophilic community, they use it. And even another community like Nevars community, this is religious mushroom for them, because this is really necessary during their wedding ceremony.
Shiva, is this an edible, this mushroom here?
Yeah, this one is edible, but it is really very hard to get enough. That's why they normally do not collect it, but this is edible. This is not a poisonous one.
All right. Okay.
And this is very well-known mushrooms. So this is Cantharellus siberius, and then even you can get this mushroom just after the airport. I mean, just nearby the airport, we can collect it. And if you ask what it is, just prepare, and they will prepare fresh Cantharellus instantly.
So what you're saying is that right outside the airport at Lukla, you're able to gather enough Cantharellus and take them into a tea house, and they'll make them for you for a meal. What fun!
Yeah. Very.
Okay.
This one is very common mushrooms in Everest area. I mean, in a season, even a family can collect about 30 to 40 kgs of these mushrooms in a season. I mean,
wow.
And they collect it and then dry it for the post-monsoon periods. And they even prepare their vegetable used as a vegetables, as a pickle, and just to prepare soup. And if some travelers, they want to have some fresh soup, they even ask you whether you want a soup from this fresh collection, or you want a soup. You want to have a mushroom soup with just canned mushrooms and normal. And in our next plan from this coming season, we are planning to have a detailed mushroom survey in Everest region. And
so if I can interrupt for just 1 second. So what you're describing is that this trek will be part of a larger research project that you're working on, that you're heading up to characterize in a way that's never been done before the diversity of mushrooms within this extraordinary part of Nepal, the Khumbu region. So the people on our trek really will be, in every step of the way, a citizen scientist contribution. Right, Shiva?
Yes.
Well, it's great.
And even we could add that, okay, if you be a part of these expeditions, your pictures, your informations will be included in these apps.
Wow.
Your pictures will be included in this publication.
That's great.
I think we can tell like that way.
Yeah, that's great. That's
exciting. So Rick, why don't we thank you very much for that. Let's tell folks how they can get in touch with you guys to join this expedition.
Sure. First, I want to thank the San Diego Mycological Society for letting me make this presentation. If anybody would like to get in touch with me or get more information, my website address is www.imt-nepal.com. And Yehuda, why don't we play the little 2-minute video we've got prepared that will show people where we're going and how we're going. Imagine yourself exploring the world's most stunning travel destination and being one of the first to discover new mushrooms in the region. Join me, Rick Silber, Executive Director of International Mountain Trekking and avid mushroom hunter, for an incredible eco-mushroom expedition to Nepal's Khumbu region, situated in the heart of the Himalayas. You no longer have to be an expert climber to experience these glorious mountains and mushrooms in their natural setting. We've custom designed this fungi foray to Everest Base Camp to be accessible for all skill levels of hikers. International Mountain Trekking's licensed guides and Sherpas are seasoned professionals and are trained to take care of all of our guests' safety and needs.
This unique 15-day, all-inclusive mushroom-oriented trek combines adventure, culture, and science, and will be led by conservation biologist Dr. Shiva Devkota, Nepal's foremost mycologist. Along the way, we will spend time in Sherpa villages, meeting with local families and learning about their culture and way of life, culminating with a visit to the world-famous Sherpa festival of Dumji. This trek is scheduled for peak mushroom season in the Khumbu. Please visit the International Mountain Trekking website for more details about our comfortable accommodations during the trek and our exciting itinerary. The group size will be limited, so I urge you to reserve your spot soon. I'm confident that you will find, just as I do, that this magical area of the world never ceases to amaze and inspire. I look forward to sharing this extraordinary experience with my fellow mushroom lovers.